My husband's request about our horse took me by surprise. I never thought a simple day on our peaceful farm would turn into something that would shake me to my core. My husband and I have always shared a deep love for animals, especially our horse, You, who's been part of our little family for years. There's something calming about the way he moves, the way he listens, and how he seems to understand us without saying a word. But one afternoon, that calm was replaced with something else, something I still can't fully explain. It started with a look in my husband's eyes, one I hadn't seen before. He had this excitement about him, this spark, like he was onto something big. He came to me with what he called a brilliant idea, something he wanted us to do together with a horse. At first I smiled, assuming it was one of his usual quirky plans for a fun video, or maybe just a new routine for the horse. But as he explained it further, I realized he wasn't joking. This wasn't a harmless idea. It was something that made me stop and question, what exactly are we about to do? I love him. I trust him. But even love has its limits, especially when something doesn't feel quite right. I could hear the way his voice softened when he said, "Just trust me, it'll be amazing." And maybe that's what scared me the most, the way he believed in it so deeply, while I stood there filled with doubt. The horse stood quietly nearby, unaware of the growing tension between us. But even he seemed to sense something was off. And in that moment, as I looked from my husband to the camera he had set up, one question echoed in my mind. Am I about to cross a line I can't come back from? I stood there for a while, unsure whether to move closer to the camera or walk away. My husband had already begun adjusting the angles, talking about lighting and how natural everything looked. He was so calm, so focused, as if this whole setup was completely normal. But in my chest, a tightness had started to build, like my body was warning me before my mind could catch up. I watched him move with purpose, and that's when it hit me. He had planned this for a while. We've always been a team. From fixing fences to feeding animals, we shared every part of life on the farm, and I admired that about us. He was the dreamer, always coming up with new ideas to keep things interesting, while I was the grounded one, making sure those ideas didn't get out of hand. But this time, this idea wasn't sitting right with me. It wasn't about the horse or even the video. It was about how far he was willing to push something just because he believed it could be great. He kept saying things like, "This will get people's attention," or "No one's done something like this before." I started to wonder if this was really about sharing a sweet farm moment or just trying to go viral. I glanced at the horse, calm, steady, but his eyes were wide and his ears flicked back. He was picking up on our energy, and that unsettled me even more. "What exactly do you want me to do?" I finally asked, my voice quiet but firm. He looked at me, smiled like everything was fine, and said, "Nothing too crazy. Just be natural. You and the horse, that bond, it'll show on camera." But there was something in the way he said it. A slight pause, a hesitation that didn't match his usual confidence. The camera was already recording, the lights were on, and suddenly it didn't feel like just another video. Felt bigger, more intense, like we were standing on the edge of something we hadn't fully thought through. I shifted my weight, glancing once more at the horse, then back at my husband. His eyes were locked on mine, searching, waiting, and for a brief second I wasn't sure who I was really looking at anymore. I tried to steady my breathing, but my mind was racing with questions I couldn't push away. Why was he being so vague? Why did this feel more serious than he was letting on? I watched him walk over to the tripod again, making slight adjustments, as if the perfect shot mattered more than the mood hanging between us. The barn was quiet, except for the soft shuffle of the horse's hooves and the faint hum of the camera. The air felt heavy, like something unspoken was about to surface. I ran my hand gently along the horse's neck, grounding myself. This horse wasn't just an animal to me. He was part of our family. He'd been there through everything, through quiet evenings and loud arguments, through laughter and days when I just needed someone to stand beside. And now he was caught in the middle of something he didn't understand. My husband's voice cut through the silence. "Come stand right here. Just like we practiced earlier." I hesitated. Practiced. We hadn't really practiced anything. He had mentioned ideas, yes, but never something this specific. My legs moved almost out of habit as I stepped toward the spot he pointed at. The horse shifted slightly, restless now, sensing something wasn't right. And he was right to feel it because deep inside I felt it too. "Tell me again what we're doing," I asked. I needed him to be honest, to explain it properly. But all he said was, "Trust me." 2 words that used to comfort me now felt like pressure. I looked at his face. There was focus there, but also something else, something I couldn't name. I wondered if this was really about us, or if it was about proving something to someone else. Maybe to the people online. Maybe to himself. There was a part of me that wanted to believe in him like I always had, to let go of the doubt. But something was different now. He wasn't hearing me. He was too wrapped up in making something that felt more like a performance than a moment between us. And the horse, still shifting nervously beside me, was becoming a reflection of everything I felt inside. He moved toward the camera again, called my name gently and said, "Smile a little. It'll feel more natural." Tried. But all I could think was, what happens if I keep going along with this? And what if I don't? I stood there trying to hold it together. But every part of me was tense. The barn, usually my peaceful place, now felt like a stage I hadn't agreed to stand on. My husband's voice kept directing me, calm on the surface, but underneath it was something more urgent, more controlling. "Just a little closer," he said, waving his hand toward the horse. "We're almost there." Almost where? I wanted to ask, but I was too afraid of the answer. The horse shifted again, clearly sensing my discomfort. His ears flicked back, tail twitching, and I gently placed a hand on his neck to calm him. It wasn't just me who felt the shift in energy. He did too. Animals always know when something's off. And right now, everything felt off. I glanced at the camera again, its little red light blinking like it was watching everything, recording not just the moment, but every inch of doubt crawling under my skin. I looked at my husband again. He was so focused, adjusting angles, checking lighting, completely in his own world. But it wasn't the kind of passion that excited me. It was obsessive. And that's when I realized this wasn't about us anymore. It wasn't even about the video. It was about control, about how far he could push me before I finally pushed back. "Can we talk about this?" I asked softly. He didn't look up. "We will. Just finish this part first." His words were smooth, but I could hear the impatience behind them. It was like he needed this shot, needed me to cooperate, to prove something. Maybe to the world. Maybe just to himself. But I wasn't sure I could keep going. Not like this. The horse let out a low snort and shifted again, bumping me slightly. I stumbled to the side, catching myself on the wooden stall door. My breath caught in my throat. My heart pounded louder than the hum of the camera. Everything was building. His pressure, my fear, the horse's unease. We were standing on the edge of something, and I didn't know which way it was going to tip. But I knew this. Something was about to snap. And once it did, there'd be no undoing it. No going back. Just as I steadied myself, trying to calm my nerves, I heard a sound that made everything inside me freeze. A soft click from behind the camera. It was faint, almost unnoticeable, but I knew that sound. It wasn't just recording. My husband had turned on the live stream. I felt my stomach drop. My first instinct was disbelief. No warning. No heads up. No chance to back out. He had gone live without telling me. Suddenly, this wasn't just about a video we could delete or edit. This was happening in real time and people were watching. The red blinking light on the side of the camera had changed. It wasn't just a record icon. It was a broadcast. "Wait," I said, my voice sharp, almost too loud in the barn. "Are we live?" He didn't look at me, just adjusted the tripod slightly, pretending not to hear. "It's fine," he said quickly. "Just keep going. You're doing great." "No," I said louder now. "You went live without telling me." That's when he looked up. And for the first time I saw it clearly. This wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. He had planned this. He knew I wouldn't agree to it, so he didn't give me a chance. He was counting on the pressure, the audience, the camera, the moment to push me through it. I needed it to feel real, he said. His tone was too calm, too casual. They respond more when it's not staged. The words hit me hard. Not staged. This was my life. Not a performance. And now, strangers were watching me struggle to stay composed. Watching the tension they didn't fully understand. Felt exposed. Betrayed. The horse picked up on it too. Ears back, feet shifting. I tried to calm him again, whispering softly, but my own energy was off. I couldn't ground myself anymore. Not with everything unraveling. I didn't agree to this, I said, stepping back. You crossed a line. He raised his hands like it wasn't a big deal. Yeah, it's just a few minutes. Come on, you've done harder things. This is nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was trust being shattered right there on camera. The real twist wasn't just that he went live. It was that the audience had started commenting in real time. Words flashing across the screen. I couldn't see them clearly from where I stood, but I caught glimpses. Some were confused. Others seemed amused. But a few too many sounded concerned. People could sense the tension. They weren't watching a feel-good video. They were watching something uncomfortable. Something real. And then, the worst part, my phone buzzed in my back pocket. Over and over. Messages coming in. Friends. Family. People asking what was going on. If I was okay. If this was part of the plan. That's when the panic really set in. He tried to reassure me again, but it was too late. The audience was growing. The pressure was building. And now, it wasn't just about me and him. It was about the eyes watching. The judgment forming. And the line he'd clearly crossed. Never thinking I'd push back. But he was wrong. I wasn't going to stand there silent. Just for the sake of a good shot. Not anymore. I stood there for a moment. Feeling like the entire world had slowed down around me. The live stream was still going. The comments were still flooding in. And my husband was still trying to act like everything was under control. But inside, something in me had shifted. I walked straight toward the camera, not caring how it looked, and turned it off. Just like that, the screen went black. The stream ended. Silence. He looked stunned. What are you doing? He asked, as if I had just ruined everything. No, I said firmly, my voice calm but shaking. What are you doing? You made a choice without me. You used our life like it was a script. Like I was just a part of your content. For a second he didn't say anything. And then he dropped the act. I thought you'd go along with it, he said, shrugging. People love authenticity. You were emotional. It was real. It wasn't yours to share, I snapped. This wasn't just about the horse. Or a cute story. This was my heart on display. And he didn't even ask. He opened his mouth like he had more to say, but then stopped. Maybe he realized it. Maybe not. But I didn't wait for him to figure it out. I walked past him and toward Max, our horse, who had been pacing nervously. I stroked his neck, whispering softly, grounding myself in the one soul that hadn't tried to turn my life into a performance. And that's when the final twist came. As I was unclipping Max's halter to let him roam freely in the pasture, I noticed something tucked in his saddlebag. Something I hadn't put there. Small envelope. I opened it slowly. Inside was a folded note, written in my husband's handwriting. The words were brief, but chilling. I know you saw the messages. I couldn't let it go public. This video had to distract them. My hands trembled. Messages. What was he hiding? It wasn't just about the horse. Or the live stream. There was something more. And now, the real story was only just beginning. I stood there, holding the note in my hands. My mind racing. My heart pounding in my chest as I tried to make sense of what I just read. What messages? What was he trying to hide? I turned to face my husband, the man I had shared years of trust, love, and a life with, who now stood in front of me like a stranger. He hadn't moved since I found the note, hadn't said a word. just stared at me, eyes dark with a mixture of confusion, guilt, and something else I couldn't quite place. Fear, maybe. My fingers clenched around the envelope, the thin paper trembling in my hand. "What does this mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, raw and uneven. The barn felt suddenly colder, heavier, as if the air itself was waiting for his answer. I could feel the weight of the truth pressing down on me like a tidal wave just seconds before impact. My heart beat in my throat, loud and panicked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he sighed, slow and deep, like the kind of breath someone takes when they're about to finally say something they've rehearsed 1,000 times but never had the courage to speak aloud. He turned his face away, avoiding my eyes, jaw tight with restraint. Then, after a long pause, he looked at me again. "It's not what you think," he said quietly. His voice wasn't defensive. It wasn't angry. It was small, like a man who had finally run out of excuses. "I was trying to protect you," he added. "I didn't want you to find out this way." But even as the words left his mouth, I could see the doubt flicker behind his eyes, like he wasn't sure if he believed his own explanation anymore. He opened his mouth again, then closed it, rubbed the back of his neck, paced half a step. He was buying time, searching, maybe hoping I'd interrupt. But I didn't. I needed him to say it. I needed the truth to stop hiding behind half-truths and deflections. Finally, he exhaled again and spoke. "There's something I've been keeping from you," he said, slower this time, more deliberate. Something I should have told you a long time ago. But I didn't. And now." His voice trailed off, but the silence that followed screamed louder than anything. Something that could ruin everything. And there it was. The words hung between us, sharp and irreversible. My ears rang like they did when a door slams too hard in a quiet house. Except this wasn't a door. It was a truth breaking through the wall I thought we had built together. I swallowed, but my throat burned. He had been hiding something from me. Something big. Not just the live stream. Not just the manipulation. Not just the desperate grasp for digital relevance. No, this went deeper. This was betrayal wrapped in a lie disguised as protection. And I wasn't sure which hurt more. The secret itself or the fact that for who knows how long, he had looked me in the eye every day, kissed me goodnight, made coffee in the morning, while carrying something he knew might destroy us. This wasn't about content anymore. It wasn't about the video. It wasn't even about Max or the farm. This was about trust. And somewhere, somehow, we had lost it. It wasn't just about the video anymore. It wasn't about the live stream, the camera, or the pressure of creating something viral. It was about the trust, the fragile, sacred thing we had built over years of shared laughter, quiet mornings, and the kind of partnership that made even the hard days feel easier. And now, standing there with the note still crumpled in my hand, I realized just how much of that trust had been chipped away. Slowly, quietly, while I wasn't looking. There had been secrets, ones I hadn't sensed at first, ones he had carefully hidden behind smiles and busy hands. And the worst part, I still didn't even fully understand why. Why the deception? Why the silence? He took a hesitant step toward me. His eyes soft but desperate, searching my face for any sign that I might still believe in him. His voice was low, almost broken. "I thought if I could keep you focused on the video on the horse, you wouldn't notice," he said. "I thought I could control it. But I was wrong. I'm sorry." The words floated between us, but they didn't land gently. They fell like stones, heavy, cold, and final. I shook my head slowly, the tears burning hot as they brimmed and spilled. I didn't try to wipe them away. "What happened to us?" I whispered. "What happened to trust?" He dropped his gaze immediately, shoulders slumping as if the weight of his choices had finally caught up with him. His voice cracked when he spoke. "I messed up," he admitted. "I thought I could handle it, that I could fix it before it got this far. But I was wrong. So wrong." And then silence. A long, aching silence that wrapped around us like fog, thick and impossible to see through. We stood there, just feet apart, but it felt like a chasm had opened between us. He looked like he wanted to reach out, to close the distance, but he didn't. Maybe because he knew he had no right to. Not yet. The barn around us, once filled with the warm sounds of familiarity. Max's soft huffing, the creak of old wood, the wind brushing against the roof, now felt hollow. A shell of something that used to feel safe. And as the silence stretched on, filled with all the words we couldn't say and all the damage we hadn't meant to cause, one truth settled deep inside me. We couldn't go back. Something had shifted between us. Something vital. And no matter how badly I wanted to rewind, to undo the choices and the silence and the moment he hit that go live button without telling me, we were different now. And things had changed. The bond we had once shared, solid, dependable, something I thought unshakable, now felt fragile, like glass stretched too thin. Still there, but with cracks that ran deep beneath the surface. The kind that don't show until the light hits just right. Or until something heavy lands on top of it. And in that moment, I had to face the truth I didn't want to admit. No matter how much I wanted to fix things, no matter how badly I wished we could just press rewind and return to the simple kind of love we had once known, it wasn't that easy. Because trust, once broken, doesn't just repair itself with apologies. It doesn't rebuild overnight with a hug or a few good days. Takes time. Time and honesty. Not just between the two of us, but within myself as well. I needed to rediscover who I was outside of the chaos. Outside of the camera, the pressure, and the performance. I had to rebuild the foundation within me. The one that had once felt so sure, but had started to erode beneath the weight of doubt and disappointment. That night, after the cameras were packed away, after the note was folded and placed in a drawer neither of us spoke about again, we sat down in the dim glow of the living room. No audience, no script, just two people who once loved each other deeply, now facing a silence filled with hard truths. The conversation was long, painful. We didn't yell. We didn't accuse. We just laid everything bare. The confusion, the hurt, the guilt, the fear, the love that hadn't disappeared, but was now buried beneath too many layers of miscommunication and misguided decisions. And in the end, we both knew what needed to happen. We agreed to take a break. Not because we didn't care, but because we did. Because continuing to pretend everything was okay when it clearly wasn't, would have only caused more damage. We needed space. Space to breathe, to think, to feel without the pressure of fixing it right away. Space away from the cameras, away from the likes, the comments, the expectation to turn every moment into something polished and palatable for others. It wasn't easy. It hurt more than I thought it would. Stepping away from someone I still loved. But deep down, I knew. Sometimes the only way to move forward is to pause long enough to truly understand where you are. And so we did. In the weeks that followed, things didn't magically go back to how they were. But there was movement. Slow, careful movement. Talk. Really talk. Not about views or content or growth, but about us. About what we missed. About what we feared. About how we'd lost sight of the line between real and performative. And little by little, something began to mend. We started to see each other again. Not through the lens of what we could create or broadcast, but for who we were when the cameras were off. Flawed. Vulnerable. Still learning. Max, our horse, remained constant. Quiet. Steady. He became our anchor in a way. A gentle reminder of what truly mattered. Of what had always been real. When words failed, we found comfort in his presence. In the quiet moments, brushing his mane, walking the pastures, simply being instead of doing. And the video, the one that started it all, was never uploaded. We could have edited it, rewritten the story, shared only the highlights. But we didn't. Because we finally understood. That moment wasn't meant to be content. It was meant to be a wake-up call. A lesson we both desperately needed. No number of followers, no amount of praise or digital applause could ever replace the sacred trust and love we had built over years. It was never about the likes. It was about us. And though the path ahead still felt uncertain, I knew something with more clarity than I had in a long time. Healing takes time. Forgiveness takes courage. And sometimes, the most important stories aren't the ones we package and present to the world. They're the ones we protect, nurture, and carry quietly in our hearts. The ones we live. Not for show, but for each other. Thank you for staying with us. If you find it interesting and useful, please subscribe, like, and share so you don't miss the next video. Thanks.